Welcome to Tea Time, the only video game show that answers the questions no one cared enough to ask. This week's show is brought to you by Personal Taste. It's the thing that separates Kid Rock and Smash Mouth fans from the rest of us music listeners. Sorry, this week's sponsor is actually Any Taste at All. But anyway, it's that time of the year when all of us games people pick our favorite titles of the past 12 months. So... Now, some of you are aware of my day job. We have our own Game of the Year picks over there, but those are decided as a website and they reflect a wide range of people. This list is all me, so just be prepared for a lot of subjectivity. But before we can get on to the countdown, I have to welcome my special guest. And there's really only one man for the job, so please welcome straight out of Sesame Street, the Count. Well, it is truly an honor to have a Muppet on the show. Are you ready to help me with my top 10 games?
I am ready, guy. What do I have to do?
Just do what you normally do. Now here are my favorite games of 2016.
10.
Final Fantasy 15. It's been so long since we got a proper Final Fantasy title, most people will accuse me of blindly loving this. But that's why it's only at number 10. It has a lot of problems, and you can absolutely tell it was originally meant to be a spin-off. But the thing is, I love 15's spin on a lot of the Final Fantasy staples. The Ascension system reminds me of 10's Sphere Grid. The combat is close enough to Kingdom Hearts to be really fun, and the summons in this game are just awesome. The story as a whole is definitely a mess, but the little dialogues we get between the four heroes are some of the most humanizing bits of gaming I've seen all year. Just like the Ninja Turtles or any other foursome, you'll pretty much instantly find a favorite. The correct answer is Prompto, by the way.
9!
Hyper Light Drifter. I love Hyper Light Drifter because it does one thing so well, and that's Twitch combat. I mentioned in my last episode that this game really doesn't stick its nose out for story or dialogue or anything like that. Hyper Light Drifter is just about sitting down and finding your own way. The bosses are challenging, the combat really gets your blood pumping, and the action is all set in a beautiful purple and pink world. I don't even care that I have no clue what the story was trying to say. I had a blast just conquering the 4 quadrants of this world.
8!
Thumper. This is the only virtual reality game on my list, and I think it's hands down the best VR game of the year. I never even finished a level without my PSVR headset. Being present in the world adds so much to the rhythm of the game. You're cruising down the Note Highway, looking up at these huge bosses, and just letting the adrenaline take over. I really have no clue how I even managed to S-rank some of these sections. It's like the Battletoads wind tunnel with a time signature to guide you around the obstacles. And if you look at it as a rhythm game only, it's still great. It never stops adding new mechanics with each level, and the last 2 verses are just pure insanity. I feel more accomplished with this than I did with Freebird and Guitar Hero 2.
7!
Salt and Sanctuary. So yeah, this game is basically 2D Dark Souls, and I love those games, so I love this too. But for as much as it borrows or reinterprets from that series, Salt and Sanctuary adds a lot of its own flavor. Hey, that was kind of a pun. Anyway, the 2D plane totally changes the dynamic of both combat and exploration. Instead of looking for hidden doors and pathways, you're climbing up ladders or carefully dropping down small ledges. Bosses not only have really cool designs, but they also ask you to learn attack patterns. When you only have the X and Y axes to move along, the challenge is different, and I like that.
6!
The Witness. This is the only puzzle game on my list, but much like Thumper, it takes a single mechanic and slowly evolves it. You start by just dragging a line from point to point on a simple grid. By the end, you're boxing out certain symbols, fitting in Tetris shapes, or using other elements in the world to figure out the solution. From there, you realize that not every puzzle is tied to the tiles. You can drag your cursor through the clouds, over the water, or along anything that even looks like it could be a puzzle. And when you figure that out, you can access the true ending within seconds of starting a new game. Puzzle games are about mastering a mechanic, and The Witness helps you get there.
5!
Doom. So I really don't play modern shooters that often. I prefer the shooters of the 90s. Doom is an evolution of that. It's not about corridors, it's about arenas with multiple floors and pits and doorways and demons appearing in all of those places. It's fun to shoot them, it's fun to execute them with glory kills, and it's fun to take them on with power-ups like quad damage and invincibility. The story is there if you want to dig into your codex, but if not, you can just blast away, and the Doom Marine is more than happy to do that. Despite not saying a word, there is so much personality in that character. And there's so much personality throughout the whole game, from the UAC to the surface of Mars to hell itself.
4.
Hitman. Hitman is basically the opposite of Doom. You walk around carefully, watching patrol routes and weighing your options based on the tools you brought into the level. And even though every stage is about murdering some criminal, it's never taken too seriously. Hitman knows it's a game. It knows the NPCs follow specific routes like clockwork, and it wants you to rip open the clock and smash all the gears. It's a game that lets itself be broken, and even invites it. And it still manages to be challenging, especially with its elusive target system. You've got one shot at killing your target in a limited window, and that's it. I didn't put much time into the Hitman games before this, but I am so glad I dove in.
3.
Dark Souls 3. There's a Dark Souls cousin on this list, so having the real deal probably makes sense. Here's the thing, I pretty much blew through Dark Souls 3. I beat half the bosses on the first go, and I didn't die nearly as much as I did in the first two games, or even in Bloodborne. Dark Souls 3 is like a greatest hits of the previous games. It doesn't push the series forward, but it fully embraces what makes it good. And for a fan like me, that's all I need. But even with the retreading, there is still some great twists and implications about the game's lore. Not to mention the Nameless King, which might be the hardest Souls boss ever. And that challenge is welcome.
2.
Fire Emblem Fates. The last time I played this series was the Game Boy Advance port that just called itself Fire Emblem. But something about a tactics trilogy based on a very big in-game choice got me interested again. I started with Conquest, which is the hardest of the three. I was thrown into the deep end, but that quickly refreshed me on the game's complex rock-paper-scissors combat. I learned where to place my archers versus my knights, which characters could lead the charge, and which characters needed to stay back a bit. When it came time to play the other two campaigns, I genuinely felt bad for the royal family I was betraying just for a different set of missions. And if you're wondering, yes, I did like Conquest the best.
1.
Overwatch. I already said that I don't really play many shooters. I've also never really been hooked by a Blizzard game, and all of that changed with Overwatch. As a shooter, it makes every firefight a duel, so the spawn and die, spawn and die, spawn and die pattern of games like Call of Duty just isn't here. And the focus on objectives means you usually won't run into any douchebags bragging about their KD ratio. If I look at everything but the shooting, it stands even taller. The characters are so unique and so wonderfully designed. Their personalities are immediately apparent, and you'll pick a favorite almost instantly. When I look at my other favorite games of 2016, I think, yeah, that was a good game. But when I look at Overwatch, I think, dude, I want to play a match right now. It's my number one with a bullet, and I did not just pick it for that pun. And that's going to wrap it up. Count, is there anything you want to say before you take off? We got like 20 seconds.
Only 20 seconds?
It's more like 15 now, but thanks for being here. Give it up for the Count, everybody. So those are my top 10 games of the year. I will be back with a normal episode next time, so if you have any sort of question or obscure topic you'd like me to dive into, go ahead and leave a comment and I will check those out as I do every time. And for more end of the year celebrations, head on over to Laser Time. We've got videos and podcasts and articles and all that fun stuff. Thank you very much for watching, and for the last time in 2016, let's go play some video games.